Okay, that's enough.
Hello. If you're of voting age, let me introduce myself. I'm Nancy Pelosi, and I'm a big-time representative. Vote for me. You have until this Friday. Hey everyone, welcome to this show. It's Taking It Down. We're produced by the Alabama Take. You can find a lot more than just this podcast on the alabamatake.com. If I'm being honest, you really could. Honestly. We talk about movies and television predominantly. Today on the list, let's see, what do we got? Oh, we're going to talk about the 4th episode of Euphoria a little. A few ideas on the first 2 episodes of Pam and Tommy from Hulu. And, we've got to do it. It's got to tack on some notes at the end of the show on the most recent and eventful episode of the Book of Boba Fett.
I like this show now.
Oh, we're going to get into that. Interesting. Yeah. There's your tease. I'm your host, Blaine Duncan, and joining me as always are Adam Morrow, that was him, and Donovan Runwald.
Great to be here, Blaine.
Favorite part of my week.
I edited that down.
Really?
Listen, I don't like dead space in the podcast. So listeners, you don't know, but it takes him like a nice 20 seconds to lean down into the mic and say hello.
He's a leaner. It's a close talk.
If you're wondering why we get so tickled, that is why. But I do edit it quite a bit.
Well, maybe I'll just... Great to be here, Blaine. How's that? Is that better? so flippin' honored.
You can swear on this podcast.
Do we work blue?
Yeah, we work in the blue. Awesome.
Sometimes I look at how much time has gone by and decide if I'm going to let it rip or not. Like, I feel like the first 5 minutes is not the time.
You don't want to, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, we're labeled explicit on. We're labeled explicit on podcast apps. It's cool.
You got to get your legs underneath you, both as a listener and a speaker before you really get into the blue work, as Donovan said.
I think I'll open next week's episode with just fuck. Or, God damn it.
Could. I mean, that's the Mark Maron approach, right? That seems to work for him.
Yes, it is. What's up, fuckers? What's up with the fuckers?
The first time it was funny, and then every time after that it got a little less funny, and now I don't listen to Mark Maron anymore. So.
Oh. I listen to him some. He's okay.
He's still a great interviewer.
I think he kind of drives me crazy as an interviewer, because he will often refocus on himself more than he does the person he's interviewing.
Yeah.
But he gets cool people on there.
And I understand that, because I'm prone to do that in conversation a lot. But I guess I'm just trying to connect with the person. I know it doesn't sound like it, but hey, it's almost Valentine's Day, guys. That's great news, right?
Shit.
Donovan just got up and went to the store. Everyone. No. I was going to do a nice little segue, honestly. It's still available. If you love The Righteous Gemstones, I just heard, and that HBO has renewed it for a 3rd season. That's pretty exciting. I like that show quite a bit. It's an entertaining show, even when it's not laugh out loud funny. Even if an episode's not just making you bust your gut funny, it's still just fun and entertaining. So cool. And while I'm on HBO stuff, I could do my Euphoria segment pretty quickly. I do want to check in with Adam. You almost caught up the series last week. What about this week?
We doled them out one a night, and this has been one of the more enjoyable binge experiences that we've had recently. Where we're watching. There's no discussion about what we're watching during our dinner pause. You know what I mean? It's gonna be Euphoria. It's just been that good, and I think we are into this current season now. And I gotta say, watching them like this, you really see. I think they hit a new gear with the last episode of the first season, and this new season just carries it on. It is so good, and it's a whole different level. I think. I was intrigued by season 1. We stuck with it, but I mean, it's always looked great.
Gosh, yes. They're doing something different season 2.
Yeah.
As far as the look, did they switch to film from digital? Is that what they did, do you think?
It looks that way. I don't know if that was something they're doing in post or what's happening, but it really is amazing. And what an interesting, and I'm sure there's been think pieces written on this, because season 1 came out in 2019?
I think so.
Is that right? Like the separation between season 1 and season 2 and like Zendaya becoming one of the biggest names going, and Sydney Sweeney being in White Lotus, all these things happening between the first and second season is pretty wild. Like I feel like it became so fully realized so fast in season 2.
I was a fan of season 1. I think it ended up in my top 10 around number 5 that year. I thought that it did great things. I do have to ask, now that you're almost caught up, what episode are you on? So what will you be firing up tonight?
4.
Season 2, episode
I'll
3.
do 4, and if the mood strikes us, I guess, because if you listen to the show frequently, you know Sunday is the day we record. So,
Yeah.
I mean, the new one will be out tonight, right?
So episode 5 will air tonight.
Do a back-to-back 4 and 5 and be fully caught up.
I really want to get my schedule so that I can watch this show live. I have, for those who also listen to the show, I actually teach, and I have a lot of high school students who come to me and say, "Did you watch Euphoria last night?" And I always have to tell them, "No, I didn't have time." So my goal is to make it a Sunday night watch as it airs. We'll see if I can do that tonight.
Is this one of those shows? And I'm interested. I've been interested the whole time that I was watching this. It seems like it would appeal to college and high school folks, right? Does it feel? Because I'm far enough. I'm in my 30s. I'm far enough removed from understanding what would make them feel like they're being shown on TV the way that some media did for me at the time. I mean, are they super into it?
Yeah, I think that they are. Those who watch it are super into it and love talking about it. They just love the drama, the relationships, who's going to bang who's going to double cross this one. And then there's that. And it's just well done. They probably love some of the intricacies more than they realize, I would imagine. And I'm not trying to take a dump on students. I'm just saying, usually what they want to come in and talk about is, can you believe what happened to so-and-so? Or this guy might hook up with this, and that's real compelling stuff in the way that they present it.
Yeah, I mean, that stuff is present in a lot of lesser shows, though. And it seems to be resonating because it is just, I don't know, that's a funny thing about great art, that it can be talking about almost the same thing, but have such a different level of impact and substance to it. Which I think this does. I mean, this is, on the surface, it's a show about drugs and hookups and blah, 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 and seems very...
it could be shallow.
Shallow, vain, yeah. But it's not.
But it's not. No. Adam, I'm glad you're done with season 1 because I can pose this question to you. You and I notably hate, I don't know, we just don't, we're not drawn to musicals at all. But season 1... Not to spoil it for Donovan, but season 1 ends with a big, kind of almost a musical number. Mm-hmm. And Donovan just checked out again. He's gone. He went to buy those presents for Valentine's Day. No, Adam, did you? I wonder, and I swear to God, when I watched this the first time, I kept thinking, my buddy Adam, I hope he watches this, but I don't know if he's going to I don't know if this is going to ruin it, because to me, it propelled it into really great, rather than just, oh, this show's great.
The show's use of music in general is really interesting to me. They don't... maybe it's a reflection of a generation that grew up with Spotify, that they don't feel as tied to one era. Like, it's not all just like,
no,
what's on the radio right now, what's on the top 100 on Spotify. I think I texted you while I was watching it, the climax of the last episode of season 1 happened to an old Arcade Fire song from Neon Bible. I mean, that song came out in 2007 or something. It's just funny, that Girls could have had a climax happen to an Arcade Fire song, and now this is a full, I would say, generation separated.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
And they're still using that kind of music, and they're using even older music and more current music. But to your specific question, the musical number did... I just kind of... It was fine. This show is stylized so well that I don't really care whatever decision they make.
Okay.
It didn't have the same impact to me than it probably did to you or to whoever else.
Yeah, okay. That's fair. The music has such an impact that one of our regular listeners, 87 Jetta, messaged me privately and said, "Have you watched this week's Euphoria?" And I said, "Not yet." And he said, "It just opens with a very weird song choice." Or, I don't know if he said weird, but he was excited about the song choice and was like, yeah, he wanted to talk about it. And so I got what he meant. They use Mahalia Jackson in the middle of episode 4. That's not really a spoiler, but I thought, whoa. And it fits, it fits so well. They're doing great work. So here's my episode 4 spoiler-free takeaway. It can be good, it can be bad, but here it is. I thought episode 4 was such a good reminder at how editing can be a crucial part of storytelling for TV and movies. They did some excellent editing choices in the middle of this episode where two characters almost seemed as if they were in the same room when they weren't. You obviously knew they weren't. And that helped create this idea that they're equal and weighty in their heartbreak, as well as compare this in-depth notion that emotional pain doesn't end when you're out of your teens. And it did this with a soundtrack that was overlaid and just some perfect edits. And just another way that this show's good, man. You don't think edits much, and you probably shouldn't, but I just picked up on it. And I was like, wow, this show's not afraid to use images to tell its inner and exterior stories.
I mean, the visuals seem so important on a show that, like you said, the inner stories, how do you illustrate inner stories, I guess, and they find a way to do that, whether it's, every time that one of the, I'll say kids, with the main characters is riding a bike or something like that alone at night.
Yeah.
It's like, it's always great. It's all, me and you bond over a shared love of that nostalgia kind of melancholy, which they tap into brilliantly.
Yeah.
But you're talking about editing, even the way that they have chosen to disperse information about the narrative, where oftentimes it comes in big chunks. They'll start an episode where you just get very clean-cut narrative, even chronological, like here's this person's life up until this point and why they act like they do, whatever. But there are also times where you only see whatever the cause is only kind of like you see the ripple effect. You don't see the cause for a long time. And then you eventually find out what it is. To where
Are you talking about Cal specifically? The dad?
Yeah, but there's a few instances where you think, wait, did I miss something? Because you feel like you know it, but then later they finally say, they confirm your suspicion. And that's it feels true to life where you infer all these things, especially at that age, about your friend groups or school at large or your family or whatever, and then only later do you find out the fact of whatever's actually going on. I don't know. I think it's genius.
Good. I'm glad I'm not alone because I was thinking last night, is this show genius? Am I wrong about thinking that? There's a moment in episode 4 where you do wonder, did I miss something? And it was so tiny, but as it turns out, I went online and everybody was asking the same question. So, again, I'm glad I wasn't the only one that noticed it. Speaking of nostalgia a little bit, Somebody Somewhere on HBO was also renewed for its second season.
Excellent.
That's good.
Good news.
Do you guys have thoughts on that third episode real quick? We'll just throw out some one-liners.
It was, I don't know what it was, but this episode made me laugh more than the other episodes had. Just something about the way she interacts with Joel.
Uh-huh. I know. I think it was supposed to be really a very comedic episode.
It was good.
It wasn't my favorite of the 3, but I think they might have went too hard on the comedy, but it definitely made up for it in the back half. So it's a good episode, too.
I saw Joel, our Fall Asleep show currently is 30 Rock, and Joel works a desk when Liz Lemon goes back home to Whitehaven to her high school reunion. He's working a hotel desk. Yeah. I thought, I know that guy.
How cool. Okay, well, I have watched the first 2 episodes of the Hulu series Pam and Tommy, and Donovan, you've watched at least one, right?
I've watched all 3.
All 3 that are on?
All 3 that are currently out.
Interesting. I say interesting because I thought you might have bailed after the first episode, and I wouldn't have blamed you. But let's get into that.
I wanted to do my homework. For once.
Look at you, man. Our guy coming in strong. So I've watched 2. and I almost bailed after the first. And let's just unpack this. Let's set this up. I've read a few headlines that said it was good, and that's why I thought, well, I'll give it a chance. I usually go by headlines, and I'll offer it to you guys in a text to say, what do you think? Want to do this one? Want to talk about this one? It's supposed to be good. And then we unpack it on Sunday. This one's an odd one to reckon with because you would like to think that if a show causes a lot of issues, it would have gone through enough checkpoints to be stopped at some point. And therefore, you kind of take for granted that an idea for a show or movie has been vetted. Apparently, this one, it's produced by Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg, could have had more involvement or maybe not been made at all, which I didn't even think about until I read, I think it was a Vanity Fair article. So Pamela Anderson was arguably the one person who suffered the most from the whole sex tape in the 90s being stolen, and it was traumatic for her. That being said, it's weird that these big actors signed on to do the show and this big production company moved forward with it.
With no involvement from
because she wasn't involved.
Right, she's not involved at all.
I didn't realize until right before I started watching the first episode.
And she's come out pretty negative about it, right?
I think so.
That's Natalie was telling me that she said this is kind of like having to live through it again in a way.
That was it. That was the line. Yep.
That makes watching a show kind of tough. I don't know. I haven't watched it yet. I'm very interested because the people involved, like you said, I give them the benefit of the doubt that they're using this to investigate a larger cultural thing, right? It's not just like exploiting the story. So it's I'm with you in that it's odd. Like, when you have names like Seth Rogen and Nick Offerman and blah blah blah, nobody thought to like throw up the brakes and
Sebastian
say,
Stan.
Can we make sure she's okay with this?
I mean, Lily James, who plays Pamela Anderson, reached out to her and never heard anything back. She claims to have said that she wanted to be true to the story and be kind about her portrayal, and then Pamela Anderson never replied, I don't think. I mean, the first episode especially does have this very intriguing premise of celebrities who use their power to misbehave and relish bad behavior and abuse others. And so they sort of deserve bad things when they happen to them. And there's even a clear line of class being pointed to in the first episode.
Yeah, it gets you from the beginning with kind of... it puts you on the side of the guys who stole the tape, as opposed to... immediately identifying with either Tommy or Pamela, especially Pamela.
And she's non-existent in the first episode, honestly.
She's there for one scene.
But here's the thing, if you hate, and Adam, this is why I'm almost wondering if you wouldn't like at least the first episode, if you hated the excess and pomposity and assholism of Motley Crue in that era of music and Tommy Lee, that first episode's going to scratch you where you itch.
Sebastian Stan is doing a great job of just walking around in his banana hammock, and he's just a total asshole, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Even into the second episode that I watched, he was a dick, and I didn't want anything good to happen to him.
Yeah, in fact, the second episode, I think that's where my interest started to wane a little bit, just because it was so much more heavy. It was heavier with Motley, what's his name? Not Motley Crue. That's
Tommy Lee.
Tommy Lee, thanks.
Yeah.
It was heavier with Tommy Lee. The first episode I thought was kind of intriguing, right? Because it gets you...
Very, very watchable. Very intriguing. Tense, even.
It gets you on the side of... It kind of gets you on the side of Seth Rogen's character, who has been stiffed out of thousands of dollars by
nice
Tommy
word
Lee.
choice.
Thank you. It's been stiffed thousands of dollars by Tommy Lee, and
like tens of thousands.
Tens of thousands of dollars.
Wow,
and sees himself as an instrument of karmic vengeance.
Exactly.
And whatever happens, Tommy Lee has it coming for him.
Mm-hmm. And you as an audience member probably are thinking, hell yeah, go do that. By the way, Motley Crue sort of in the news again this week, as Eddie Vedder is about to go on tour, or is on tour for his new solo album, and he commented on the music he was hearing in San Diego when he was a little younger. He talked about how I think the quote was, "I hated Motley Crue." And then Nikki Sixx fired back to call Pearl Jam the most boring band ever, and that Vedder sang like he's got a mouthful of marbles. So a little back
great.
and forth. I mean, Adam, I don't think you have a dog in that fight at all, because I think you don't like either of those bands. But right?
I mean, you got to take Pearl Jam all day of the week, right? Every day.
Well,
of the
of
week
course,
to-
of course, we would, yes, of course. But I got the impression you never really liked Pearl Jam much.
They're okay.
Yeah, Adam's a big Crew head.
Yeah, he's a big man. He really loved "Girls, Girls, Girls." That song, you know how he is.
I can't imagine they're living in a reality where like that is music.
Dude, I would have lived in that reality. And when I was a kid, it was on MTV constantly, and I hated it then. I always think I get something right when I'm like 8 years old and I hate it. And I'm like, oh, okay, I got it right.
Yeah, it feels good, doesn't it? The old sniffer was working.
Yeah. So if we're talking about this show, and we are, obviously, I'll just put up the idea that I'm talking about the characters. I don't know if I'm going to be talking about the real people at all. Who knows? So if Tommy Lee is anything like this, I do get the vibe that he might be. He is an insufferable and idiotic asshole. He's irreverent minus anything funny to go along with it.
Yeah,
The character is in the show.
He's like props to Sebastian Stan for playing him this way, because
It's true.
He's like anti-charisma.
Yes.
There's just like this black hole
Yes.
that, just like I don't. You're at least you're kind of like, what does she see in him? What does anybody see in him?
Well, yeah. I mean, I guess he's a fairly attractive guy, but beyond that, you got to have more than that, I would think. But
I would think so.
So, first episode I thought was fantastic, tense, very well done. Second episode dropped exponentially because of that focus on him, and this.
I didn't care about him. Frankly, I didn't care about him and Pamela's
Backstory?
quote unquote. Yeah, I didn't. You kind of already know it.
Yeah.
Lily James is doing a really, really good job.
Now, watching her be Pamela Anderson is fascinating. Truly fascinating. For a lot of reasons. She's very beautiful. She looks so much. It's a little uncanny how much it's like Pamela Anderson's in the show.
It is.
It's a little scary.
She's playing her with a lot of empathy, too, which
That's true.
appreciate.
Yes. So kudos to her. But here's what happened in the second episode. I have seen Rogan and Goldberg do shows, and they do this really shitty style of comedy that rarely works for me. It's very juvenile.
Are we talking about the talking penis?
We're talking about the talking penis.
Yeah, it didn't work.
I
for me
hated
either.
that. I hated it. Not because it was look, I love Euphoria, and if you know anything about Euphoria, it's that they do penis shots. They will show you a dick.
A lot of schlong.
A lot of it. And it's okay. It's
Hilarious even.
So I'm not anti-showing penises on screen. I'm just anti-bad comedy. And it was just not funny.
It wasn't funny, and it didn't really even mesh with what they'd set up so far.
Nothing. Very out of left field. That's the kind of comedy Goldberg and Rogan really love. I wouldn't be surprised if they purposely put that in there themselves. It was bad.
It's too bad, too, because based on the performance, Seth Rogen's actually doing a pretty good job in this show.
So he was playing this way more low key than he usually plays it, and he had lost I'll go back to that word, the juvenile aspect that he usually carries to a role, and he was such a schlub without being the goofy schlub. And I was so excited that he was going to do that for the rest of the show. Of course, he doesn't appear in the second episode, but I'm just really disappointed by that second episode. Tell me about the third in maybe vague terms.
The third, they're shopping the video around. They're trying to get it made, so it's much more him and Nick Offerman's character.
Yeah, his creepy uncle guy.
Uncle.
Yeah.
And I felt that the third episode recaptured. I didn't like it as much as the first one, but it recaptured some of my interest.
That's
the
promising.
second was just a really big dip.
Huge. Yeah. Well, there we go. There you go, people. It's problematic a lot. I do kind of want to see. I might hang in there for a few more episodes of this one, especially if it's a short run. But
I'll say with the third episode, you get a lot more of Lily James playing Pamela Anderson, and I've been really impressed by her. You start to see what they might be, the commentary they might be making about her. Like she's on the set at Baywatch. You know, and some of the stuff that's going on there, and she's trying to get her movie career started and things like that. So possibly, I'd say come for them shopping around the tape, but stick around for Lily James.
Yeah, the performances are great. Just some of the choices, I guess, in the writing room were not good, especially the second episode. And so Sebastian Stan makes you hate Tommy Lee, and I think that's what he's supposed to be doing. So
yes,
he's doing great.
I don't think he's a likable character.
Nope. All right, folks, let's take a break. We're going to go listen to a little Motley Crue, and we'll come back on the other side. Hey, we're at our midway break. Thanks for tuning in, folks. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast. That's really nice if you want to do that. We time-step everything. If we cover something you're worried we might spoil, just jump ahead. Great news, people. Great news. We now are on YouTube. So if you follow our YouTube channel, subscribe to it, those timestamps are clickable. You can just jump ahead to the next segment. As well as that's the same case with Spotify, but, it's Spotify. So we're housed under the Alabama Take banner, so be sure to follow anything Alabama Take related on all social media, including YouTube. As always, check out thealabamaTake.com so you're not behind on anything. If you follow us on social media, we tend to update everybody there so you can know when to go to the site. Hope that helps. Talk to us, people. Holler at us. Let's get back into our episode of Taking It Down. Okay. The Book of Boba Fett. Adam opened the show by saying he's a fan, and all of a sudden, man, I'll open it with this statement. This episode was all over the place. Quite literally. Literally all over the place.
Yeah.
Okay. It's like Jon Favreau, I think he wrote this one. It's like he looked at narrative structure. It was written narrative structure. This is what a narrative should probably look like. And just ripped it up and threw it away and just decided to write whatever he wanted to be in there.
And then got the pieces out of the trash several months later, put them on a dartboard and started throwing.
Uh-huh. I'm actually a little worried that, did he suffer, a traumatic brain injury or something? Did he forget?
Adam said he's a fan now, so Adam, will start there.
I just think from what the show was for the first, 3 episodes of...
3 or 4.
Yeah, the backstory, which, I'm on record as saying, give me more Tusken Raiders. I'm cool with that. Sand people for life. But outside of that, the little biker gang, which they got a little cameo this week.
The mods were back.
Yeah, but all of that, if that could just been condensed down to an episode or two, and then you get, because as soon as it left, those guys as the main characters, it picks up. And I don't, this week, I'm with you guys. We have the reanimated youth of Mark Hamill somehow training sweet Grogu. Now, Blaine, when Grogu started flipping from rock to rock, were you just ready to run through a wall? You were so pumped.
I was so hoping he was gonna fall on his head and get and just be dead, like his head would split open. That's a bold choice. If they would have somebody appear and just kill him, and God damn, this show would be the best ever. It's time for him to die. That's all I want to say.
No, bold choices was the how little Boba Fett can you put in your Book of Boba Fett show challenge.
Yeah,
that's a bold choice.
The preface of Boba Fett is what this show should have been called.
The preface of Boba Fett. It should be called, we all know you really want to be watching The Mandalorian.
Yeah, I don't know why this shit isn't saved for The Mandalorians next season. I don't understand why that... what's the idea here? Oh my God, people are going to turn off the show if we don't start putting Mandalorian related content?
I mean, Grogu is going to be the muscle, right? This is going to be his first.
His battle?
Yeah.
Oh, that could be almost cool if he quits acting like a kid and like goo goo gaga bullshit.
He is a kid, Blaine.
He's 50 years old. It's time to grow up.
I thought all of Luke's like basically monologuing to the goo goo gagaing. At times it was a little like something was just off about it, like a little too much. I don't know how they did it, like the technical aspect of it, but he did have his moments where, like, when he tells them a short time to you is a lifetime to others, and he's like making him make this decision that they're going to cut to black at the end of the episode before he decides. It's like that's pretty good.
Some of the conversation online had to do with Luke's voice in this episode, and I noticed it too. I think that's what you're talking about, Little, is the voice acting was stiff or weird. It's
very
like
stiff.
It didn't match a little. Something was up, but his face being on the other actor, that seemed fine, especially in those opening couple of scenes. It looked really, really good. It's just the voice. Something happened in post or whatever.
Or just he wasn't directed well to give a convincing read through of, I don't know. That was
Hamill's pretty good with voiceover work.
I was gonna say that's the odd part, since he's so
he's maybe the best.
He's done more voice work than he has done. I think other kinds of acting at this point.
And I should say, it wasn't the dialogue that detracted, because I am down for some just really Jedi mystical bullshit. The more of that they want to lay on me, the more in I am.
I actually start to get annoyed with it because it's so incoherent. Like, what is the Jedi? Like, what is the Jedi religion besides just like a little Buddhist syncretism or something like that?
That's it.
Buddhist Taoist syncretism.
But there is this only Siths think in absolutes, and then he gave him two choices. You can't combine them. So
pretty
is
binary
that not
for a Jedi?
Yeah, it seemed like it.
Jedi make no sense. They have no attachments, yet they're the guardians and protectors of the Old Republic. Please.
Does the Mandalorian religion make any sense to you?
No.
Yeah, me either. I don't know what the fuck their
slightly
rules
more
are.
sense.
Does it?
It's like a warrior. It's like a warrior culture, right? Solidarity, loyalty. This is the way. That sort of makes sense.
Don't show your face.
Well, that's just that splinter group.
Yeah, is there even?
Oh, there's
no spiritual aspect to that, right? It's really just like a cultural way of life.
He does call it his like weapons are part of his religion,
yeah.
Which I forgot to talk about last episode when he
commercial air travel in the galaxy. Yeah,
he put all his weapons in a crate.
I did think about that.
I love that
when he just jets off to see Luke and Grogu. You're like, oh, this guy's in the 1%. He's flying private all the time.
Yeah. He's got his own ship.
When you're watching it as a kid, you're like, this universe, man, you could just go anywhere. This seems so great. And then you remember that world exists right now. We're just not part of it.
I will say the episode exponentially got better with the blue villain who is named Cad Bane. So he was at the end. It might be a little too late to try to introduce this new villain type character, but that was such a great sequence with, not only because Timothy Olyphant is so fun, but Cad Bane, I don't know, he seemed to drip with the kind of menace this show lacks sometimes.
Ooh, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, I thought this was, I looked at Natalie and said, I bet that scared the shit out of some kids. Because he's genuinely kind of the first unnerving thing that I can think of that's happened in any of these shows. It's like, oh, that's an actual bad guy.
Supposedly borrowed or brought in from the Clone Wars. Right? Yeah, the Clone Wars, and he's apparently the best bounty hunter in the realm of Star Wars. He's tough. Looks tough.
So they've been lying to me? I thought Boba Fett was the best.
I think we've learned that Boba Fett is far from the best.
That's the thing with these shows, when these universes kind of things, is you can say this guy's the best, and then like 2 years later you can come along and go, nah, this guy's the best. They do this with Marvel. Hulk's the strongest. Oh, did we mention Thanos? It's just dumb, and I don't like that. I like consistency, but yeah, at the same time, we're just playing with toys.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. At the end of the day.
And of course, Grogu's going to pick the metal armor made for him because this show has to milk that little fucker. I don't get making it about him again. I guess I do get it because maybe Boba Fett's nowhere as interesting, and it took them 4 or 5 episodes in the writing room to figure it out, which is what Donovan's been saying.
I think Grogu needs to take the armor, start walking out the door, and then force grab the lightsaber, and just tell Luke to deal with it.
And flip him off.
So, The Mandalorian was drawing on Lone Wolf and Cub, which is a Japanese comic series and also series of movies. And in the movies, the little baby has a baby cart that he gets pushed around in. And this baby cart has it's made out of bamboo, and it has buttons on it. And if he presses the right button, like knives and shit pop out. And his dad can push him downhill through a bunch of enemies, and they get. I think that's where they're going with Grogu. I think that he's gonna go back in his baby cart, and it's gonna be full of knives, and like the Mandalorian can just throw him into the midst of an encounter.
I would like him being thrown into the midst of an encounter.
And not
keep going.
They didn't build the Naboo space fighter or refurbish it or whatever. And put a little dome where R2 used to sit for Grogu not to be in that sumbitch.
That's 100% true. Did you enjoy seeing Ahsoka Tano? Is that her name, Donovan? Ahsoka Tano character?
It's either that or Ahsoka Tano, right?
Okay. She, played by Rosario Dawson, she's, of course, one of the famous Jedis who survived Order 66.
It is kind of fun to have her show up and be like, you remind me so much of your dad sometimes.
It really does make me want to go back and watch the Clone Wars stuff. I tried an episode or 2 of it, but I just couldn't get past the animation. That was about 5-6 years ago, though. I
have also been wondering, based on all of this, if I should give Clone Wars another shot, because
they say that it's the best Star Wars.
Yeah. I was with you, though. Something about the animation style just never really clicked with me.
Maybe it gets better. Listeners, if you're fans of the Clone Wars or Bad Batch or any of that, is it worth it? Does the animation get better? Let us know.
And more importantly, how can I convince my wife to watch this with me?
Well, I might could convince my 4-year-old to watch it. Is it suitable for a 4 or 5-year-old? That's a good question.
It's got that Y7 fantasy violence rating.
Yeah.
So you tell me.
We'll find out this week.
Can you explain, explain death to her? Like when a clone trooper dies, like does he have a soul?
She keeps throwing around that word a lot lately. She goes, soul. I want to punch you and you'll die. And I'm like, oh, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. Any more thoughts on I think we're coming up to the final episode of the season on the Book of Boba Fett.
Now that it's finally compelling, it'll end.
It's compelling because it has avoided every single thing to do with the conflict and stakes that they've set up with Boba Fett.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What are the bad guys called again? The Pikes? I can't even remember.
Yeah, the Pike people, the fish people.
Because they're fish, right? So.
Mm-hmm. And they've sent in Cad Bane to be a badass.
That's the best thing anyone's done in this show so far.
They should have sent him in episode 1.
It does kind of make you. I think, was it last week that we said that this, like, if you could just remix this show, there's maybe a good show in the middle of it.
I think there is. Yeah, I do. And honestly,
it's just all out of sequence.
Yeah, exactly. And I tune in every Wednesday as soon as I can. Honestly, I'm there day of release, but it's just ridiculous.
I would like to see Jon Favreau to play. He seems so much more comfortable with the Western than he does with anything else. I wonder if that's part of the problem. The crime story. He's just. It seems like his conception of Star Wars is kind of by default the Western or those sort of Western-inspired stuff, like, he's got a Seven Samurai episode and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, maybe he's just in over his head when it comes to the crime boss stuff. Maybe that's just not where he's comfortable.
Yeah, there's just very little crime boss stuff here at all. I wish they could have done that. That would have been interesting. I think that's it for us this week. That's all we have for you. We'll be back next Tuesday with more about this and that. We might do Nightmare Alley, the movie that is streaming on HBO Max. That's a possibility. We will let you know a couple of days ahead of time via the Alabama Take on Twitter and Instagram. So follow us. You can know what's coming in the next few days. We will talk to everybody later.